What's up guys, it's SoulSniper here. Today I'm going to give you some quick tips that I guarantee will make you a better Hell Let Loose player. Okay, first of all, don't worry about how you'll be perceived by experienced players. When I first started playing, I remember being a little nervous that I'd be the only blueberry who had no clue what the hell he was doing, and that all the veterans would want to kick me out of their squad. But what I quickly came to find out is that most Hell Let Loose veterans are actually incredibly welcoming and are totally willing to help out new players who want to learn. So the first piece of advice I have for you is to be upfront about your lack of experience. Let your squad know right away that you're new to the game. Maybe ask them if there's a certain role they need you to play or if there's anything particular they want you to do. Ask them questions and be a sponge. You'll be amazed by how inviting and helpful the community can be when you're eager to learn. Communication is key. If you don't have a microphone, you should really pick one up if you're able to. Not only does communicating with your squad help both you and your team be more combat effective, but it also makes the game a hell of a lot more fun and immersive.
Third floor's clear.
I'm coming to get you.
Plus, by engaging with other players, you'll learn the ins and outs of the game much quicker than if you're not engaging. And you might be wondering, okay, I have a mic, but what the hell am I supposed to say? Well, the most basic communication you can do in Hell Let Loose is making callouts using what I call the 3 Ds. That's description, distance, and direction. The description is what you see, like an enemy tank or an enemy squad. Distance is the approximate distance between you and whatever it is you're calling out. And direction is the direction according to the compass at the bottom of your screen. So an example of what this might sound like is, I've got enemy infantry 150 meters south. Notice how quick and concise that was, yet I was able to communicate what I saw, where I saw it, and approximately how far away it was. If you're sticking with your squad, which you should be, they'll now have the basic information they need to react accordingly. You can also use the game's ping system to visualize your callouts by clicking the middle mouse button while looking at something.
Tanks are rolling up the beach on my ping.
Okay, so you're ready to use the 3 Ds, but there's a problem. Spotting enemies in Hell Let Loose in the first place is freaking hard. So let's get into some tips about spotting enemies. Engagements in Hell Let Loose tend to take place at further distances than many of the mainstream AAA titles like Call of Duty. The weapons in Hell Let Loose are all very accurate and deadly, even at distances of 2, 3, and even 400 meters.
Holy shit, I hit a headshot. All the way across the beach, baby.
You really have to adjust your playstyle and tactics accordingly, or you'll find yourself staring at the "You Have Died" screen the entire game. Real fun. Try looking further out into the distance than you might be expecting an enemy to be. Scan the tree lines and the hedgerows. Really what you're trying to do is spot movement. You want to slow down and be observant. You don't want to run and gun in this game. You want to carefully scan your surroundings and think about where the most likely forms of cover are for the enemies that might be in the area. That's the most likely place an enemy will expose themselves first. It could be the edge of a nearby building, a gap in a hedgerow, or a low stone wall. Anywhere the enemy might be hiding. You also want to scan among the crests of hills and berms and keep a close eye on windows of bunkers for silhouettes. Get into the habit of always scanning, even when you're on the move. Oh, and always check your corners. Okay, now once you see movement, you might find that you're hesitant to pull the trigger because you're not sure if it's an enemy or a friendly, or maybe you pull the trigger without hesitation and rack up team kills. Either way, that's not good. So to help with that, I highly recommend going into the gameplay options and turning the nameplate view distance sliders all the way up, at least until you get more comfortable in the game. Doing this will show the nameplate of all your teammates up to 500 meters away, making it pretty darn difficult to mistake them for enemies. In addition to this, use your map. While it won't show you the enemy's location, it will show you where your teammates are. If you're moving into an area that you know none of your teammates are in, that means you can shoot anything that moves on sight. You'll also pick up on little details like the differences between the uniforms and the way the Germans carry their rifle in one hand while the Americans use two. It just takes a little time and experience, but you will get there, I promise. Now you have to keep in mind, the enemy's going to be using all of those same tactics. They're scanning and looking for movement just like you are. So always assume the enemy is watching you. When you move, make sure you have a plan. Is there some form of hard cover where you're planning to move? Are there any forms of concealment along the way, like bushes, trees, stumps, rocks, or even dead cows? Try to choose routes that obstructs the enemy's line of sight. By keeping the amount of time the enemy can see you to a minimum, you're greatly reducing their opportunities to take you out. You can also ask your teammates to provide suppressive fire, or throw some smoke grenades if you have them. Which, by the way, smoke grenades should be thrown as close to the enemy position as possible. This creates a smoke screen that fills your enemy's entire screen, blinding them and giving you the opportunity to safely advance. If you throw the smoke grenade in front of you instead, the enemy will simply wait for you to emerge from the smoke and take you out. In every game of Hell Let Loose, a front line forms at the strong point. The majority of players will run straight to the front line to get into the action as soon as possible. While this is in fact the fastest way to get into a firefight, it isn't always the best strategy. Don't get me wrong, I've had some epic and memorable moments on the front line. However, more often than not, a good flanking maneuver is much more effective. You'd be surprised by the absolute tunnel vision the enemies get sometimes while focused on the frontline battle. If you take the time to maneuver undetected to the side or rear of the enemy, you'll be in a fantastic position to take them out. And remember to utilize the tips I gave earlier while executing your flank. Minimize the enemy's line of sight, use concealment, move between cover, and scan your surroundings for any movement. Taking the time to flank the enemy requires some discipline and patience. You might have to move 50 or even 100 meters or more from the strong point to get into position. But the payoff is worth it. You can often disrupt the enemy front line and take out multiple targets before being detected. And sometimes you even find an enemy outpost or garrison that you can take out. This can cripple the enemy's spawning abilities, which can allow your team to finally break through and capture the point. So that's it, guys. Like I said, if you practice these tips, I guarantee you'll greatly improve your combat effectiveness. Let me know in the comments if you found this video helpful, and if you did, please give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing to the channel. Thanks, and we'll see you in the next one.